All right, Evan, welcome back for another episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Tuesday, November 30th, 2021. Markets closing out the month here on a down note. S&P down 2% here, erasing all of yesterday's gains. NASDAQ down 1.6, Dow down 1.86, Russell 2000 here down 2% here. Although finally coming off the lows, it looks like they're defending it a little bit here as it is starting to outperform. At least over the last couple of hours, last couple of days, Russell has massively underperformed the rest of the market. But coming off the lows here a little bit, looks like they're trying to defend this trend line, but this is not a good look here for the Russell. Let's take a look here at the monthly. Since we are closing out the month now, markets do close in a few minutes. Let's clean this up a little bit there. That is your monthly Russell candle, so nothing good there. Let's take a look at the diamond. Diamond, not a good look either. Triple Qs, big tail right there on that. Let's look at the NDX, so clean it up right there. Tail candle, and then on the SPX, another shooting star on the monthly. And SPY here, let's take a look at the daily. So we're over 115 million shares traded. We'll probably finish at about 120, 125 here. Let's put these lines back on. So again, we talked about this top side trend line, that getting rejected. Same thing on the triple Qs. You know, we've been bearish on the Qs. And I said earlier last week, you know, after Tuesday, I said I think the Qs have probably topped out. And it is starting to look that way. So let's check back at the MACD because we've been watching this every single day here. This weekly MACD is starting to, it's starting to tighten up. Hasn't gone negative yet as we are still positive on the week on the triple Qs. We are negative now on the SPY. Look at that weekly candle so far. Now let's take a look here on some downside. Pull this back up. So a lot of people are looking for this 454 to be tagged. That probably will happen. Probably as early as tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if we gap down probably into that 50 moving average. That will be decent support. And if you get through that, you're going to be looking at this 445 area. You got the 100 moving average in there. So that's going to be your area on the SPY. Now, this is a broad-based decline here. If we look at the heat map, really Apple, Tesla, Pfizer are really the only few bright spots. I think Nike was green at one point. Nike now rolling over now in the red here. But really, this is kind of what distribution looks like. They're propping up Apple and they're selling everything else. Just so the market doesn't crash, they got to keep a couple of stocks higher so that they can sell everything else without completely flatlining the market. Look at Google down 2.6 here, erasing all of the gains and then some from yesterday. Microsoft down 1.6, still holding on to the lows here. Let's take a look at Facebook or Meta. This one rolling over pretty precipitously. So, broker dealers, look at that rollover through the 200 moving average now. Transports, IYT into this necktie. That's actually good support here on the transports via the IYT. So this would be your kind of level. You're right into that now. So that should get a nice bounce there. But this is a broad-based decline. And really the only thing that's holding up so far is the semiconductors. And once the semiconductors goes, the rest of this market will go. AMD is a bright spot right now. NVIDIA also a bright spot. I mean, these things are down 2%, but they are holding up. Tesla is holding up okay as well. Obviously green on the day. But, once these last areas of strength start to fade, that's really where the rest of the indices are going to roll over. So let's see, broad-based decline here. We've covered that. Let's move on here. So let's talk about the IWM again. So it really needs to hold this trend line. You're going to have some support down here. You're going to have this pivot as well, but you need to see this IWM, the Russell 2000, hold up. Otherwise, it is going to put pressure on the rest of the market. This represents small cap companies. This represents risk appetite. So we want to see the IWM hold up. Also, XLF rolling over as well. This is going to have some support in this area. You got the 200, you got this trend line. JP Morgan is into the 200-day moving average, but this 200-day is minor. So don't make sure we're not buying this. At most, we would be buying JPM down here around 153, 155. You got these gaps, you have this pivot, but this 200 has already been basically kissed too many times. We can't buy that area. So financials starting to roll over. Morgan Stanley printing a new low here. Goldman, flirting with new lows here. Also the 200 MA there. We want to see financials lead the market here, and financials rolling over is never a good sign. We talked about this last week when financials were popping. that, we don't ever see a bear, we never see a market rollover, or at least a start of a bear or anything like that without financials. So now financials rolling over, XLE coming back in, crude getting absolutely slaughtered again, getting a nice bounce here at 65, considered picking up a long at this point, but didn't quite pull the trigger here. I still think this one gets down to close to 60. I'll probably test this pivot around 62, 61.50 in that area, but may get a nice bounce in the near term. It is pretty oversold in the near term here. Let's take a look at gold. So gold in danger of losing this trend line also. So weakness in the precious metals, and that is with yields lower. So there's all sorts of distortions, and really seeing kind of the market start to rotate and start to figure out what it's going to do next, as we're seeing a little bit of distortions here. Market is closing now. There's the bell. So they did finish this just off the lows. Q's got a little bit of a pop, a little bit of a market on close bid there. But ultimately finishing at the lows of the day on the spiders, the Dow. So pretty rough day here as we gave back all those gains on Monday. But going back to the yield here, I still think yields are just in a backing and filling mode, and that may mean that the bonds continue to bid for a little bit here. Ultimately, I think they are going higher. We had Powell today talk about inflation. He erased transitory from the vocabulary, so now we have we actually have inflation, which is something they denied for a long time. But that it is what it is, and the central bankers are going to say what they say. But getting back to gold here, so even with yields coming back in, gold's still taking a hit here, so that is trying to tell us something. Silver also, coming way off the lows here. It should have some support here in this area. This was where you broke out of previously, so right in that. We're basically into it right now, 22.75, that area. That should get a bounce. It is a little oversold right now. The other metals, platinum and palladium. Look at that fade on palladium. I mean, this was a nice little pop here, looking like it wanted to consolidate to push higher, and then just rolled right over. Palladium made new lows last week. That is looking bearish right now on palladium. Let's take a look at the dollar. So dollar again pulling back, with yields pulling back as well. But again, ultimately, the dollar is just backing and filling here. It's just really overbought, and it probably just needs to consolidate this move. Look how extended you are from the 20 moving average. So that needs to consolidate if it's going to push higher, which I ultimately expect it to do eventually. Now, we talked about the semis, so the last thing I want to leave you with is the semiconductors. If it loses this pivot, and more importantly, this pivot, this market's probably cooked. But what we want to look for here on the daily, especially on the Qs, is if we just chop a little bit sideways and put in a bear base, same thing on the SPY, we can get a bounce tomorrow. There's nothing to say we can't, but if we start going sideways, that's going to tell you this market wants to push lower, and there probably is a top in, at least until the end of the year. But in any case, guys, thanks for watching. Take care, like, comment, subscribe, etc., and I will see you all tomorrow.